First, the war. The war was not Ojukwu's war. I happened on the Igbo situation at the time of the conflict. I did my duty to the best of my ability, and I am glad that Nigerians generally recognize this fact. One man could not have held the entire Nigeria and her allies for 3 years. The Igbo people felt threatened.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Thank you so much for stopping by. My people, come and hear to read. Wonder they say shall never end. Like this is exactly what happened before, during as well as after the Civil War. Like we all really need to watch this video so that we will get to know exactly what happened, especially during the Civil War. You guys know the recent IGBOS concerning Peter Obi's happy birthday message to Gowon. So in this particular video, Mario Go really went deep to really tell us everything that really happened before and during the Civil War. And this is the reason why a lot of people criticize Peter Obi, both obedient for that particular birthday message to Gowon, because there's no way you can kill over 3 million of Biafrans and at the end of the day someone will be praising you for uniting Nigeria. Just take a listen and hear everything Mayogu said in this particular video. But before then, please, if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Like this video, share it as well. Thanks so much for doing so, my people.
But when you put the word unity, love, and other nonsense he used to describe this murderous war criminal, of course, you are going to expect some reactions. It is not surprising to some, because a lot of people believe that Peter Obi is really, really desperate, even though he keeps saying that he's only desperate to see Nigeria work. You can't have a working Nigeria where the foundation is built on hatred, division, masked as one Nigeria, indivisible Nigeria. One of the reasons why some of the murderers in Nigeria, criminals in Nigeria, have gotten away with a lot is because they've succeeded in removing history from Nigerian schools. If what Gowon did at the time is to have happened, probably now, Gowon would have been charged for war crime. Because what happened? In 1944, right, there was this animosity against the IGBOS, especially in northern part of Nigeria. Back then, they happened to be one of the most educated, members of this union called Nigeria. And they are mostly found in what you can call the government parastatals, agencies, and all that across the country, including northern Nigeria. This gave those who went on to commit a pogrom. A pogrom was when the Igbos became a target of the murderous northern criminal politicians who weaponized the tribal hatred that we have now come to know in Nigeria today. The killings against the Igbo was premised on the fact that the Igbos love to dominate, okay? They are almost like controlling everywhere, according to the northern politicians of that time, led by Ahmadu Bello. So it was like, you will see a politically sponsored program, killings. I'm talking about where they will finish from their mosques, and then they will move into towns, into people's homes, and they'll be looking for Igbos. So this continued because it was believed at the time that the Igbos wanted to control everybody in Nigeria. A politically sponsored program against them started from 1944 in Kano. So when things got to head was when the 1966 coup, the coup that saw to the killings of some political figures, especially that same Ahmadu Bello, that bigoted Ahmadu Bello. Okay, since the program has already been started years back and no one was held responsible for it, the northern military or the northern soldiers from Nigerian military at the time decided to stage what was called the retaliatory coup. That retaliatory coup sought to the killings of thousands of Igbo soldiers, which eventually led to what will later become the Nigerian genocidal war. So Ojukwu, who happened to be the governor of the Eastern region at the time, the administrator of the Eastern region, appointed by Agunyi Nrosi. So immediately Nrosi was killed in Ibadan, and so many others. So they took on in the barracks across Nigeria, not just northern Nigeria, including in Lagos. Igbo soldiers were marched, and not just the soldiers now, including civilians. I'm talking about civilians working in, at the airports, hotels, and a few other businesses across Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria. They were marched out and slaughtered. Those who were trying to escape from northern Nigeria at the time, soldiers of northern extraction, they went straight to the what you call the military, the train stations, airport, including some of the Igbo Nigerians who just arrived in the country at the airport. They were all shot and slaughtered. It was a bloodbath. Yeah, you might have read the story that the 1966 coup was an Igbo coup, which happened to be another lie that has been sustained for years now, but it's already scattering, it's already falling apart. Okay, so now they killed and killed and killed until they couldn't find any Igbo in northern Nigeria. Those who Ojukwu called to return back to eastern Nigeria, because the only safe place for them was eastern Nigeria at the time. Back then, they still have the northern Nigeria, western Nigeria, eastern Nigeria being administered by the supposed appointed military head. Now, you see this program, right? Sought to the killings of more than 100,000 Igbos, or whoever look like Igbo, across Nigeria, except the eastern part of Nigeria. So Ojukwu decided to call the Igbos back. Now, when the Igbos who succeeded or managed to get back to the eastern part of Nigeria were there waiting for what would be the next line of action, the negotiation began, which was like, let's have a peace meeting, let's have a peace talk. People can return back to other part of Nigeria. Igbos can return. The Easterners can return. And when it's actually not the Igbos only. It is about the Easterners. And when they say Easterners back then, they are talking about the people in the area called the Niger Delta today. It was this political machination that caused the creation of what they call the Niger Delta region, including some of them who had to deny their Igbo connection or their Igbo ancestry. That's how fearful Nigeria was at the time for anybody that has anything to do with Igbo. If your papa, mama, or anybody in your family lineage has any connection to do with Igbo, you have to deny them. Until tomorrow, there are many of them who have denied their Igbo connection because of this. So the negotiation started. They had a meeting, a supposed peace conference in Lagos, which they invited the Igbos to participate, the Easterners to participate. Ojukwu declined because it wasn't really safe for him, he said. That was the meeting they took to Aburi in Ghana, a neutral ground. Remember again, the political disagreements or the disagreement between the political class led to the killings, the tribal killings, the slaughtering of anybody from the eastern part of Nigeria. The politicians, you see this tribal thing you are seeing today that Tifnumbu and his gang are promoting in APC. It was the same back then. Politically, the difference between now and then was that they haven't started ordering their supporters to go after the Igbos and kill them on the streets, at the airport, their businesses, burn their houses down. In 1944, it was that strong, okay, that it was a foolish thing for anybody from the eastern part of Nigeria to actually be living outside the eastern part of Nigeria. Sure you get? So they took this to the Angon. So when these guys who planned the retaliatory coup, who killed as many Igbo soldiers as possible at different, but I'm talking about they marched them out and they shot and slaughtered them. Right? That was what the retaliatory coup was all about. So then they ran back. They ran back to northern Nigeria. They were waiting for the supposedly the Igbos to launch a counterattack and start a proper war against the north. But they didn't. So that was when the negotiation for peace, this peace that started. Let us forget all this hatred that has eaten so deep into Nigeria fabric then, right? National fabric. So they took it to Diaburi in Ghana, a neutral ground where a gentleman agreement was reached. Gentleman agreement was reached that, you know what, instead of the Igbos not being part of Nigeria, why don't you just form a confederation? They can still be part of Nigeria, but they can have their own region, autonomous region. When Yakubu go lost, return back to Nigeria, the murderous likes of Murtala Muhammad, what's this guy's name? Obasanjo, Bokuwari, Theophilus Danjuma, and many like them, right? They rebuked him. Like, what the heck are you doing? Why would you give these Igbo people or these Easterners, why would you give them why would you agree to a confederation that gives them autonomous region, which means they are independent somehow, but they are still part of Nigeria, which means they would have access to their sea, have access to their oil, have access to some of the things that Nigeria was hoping to build on. So he dropped the agreement. Dropping that agreement, he now issued a threat. So when Ojukwu at the time said, if you renege on this agreement, then we would have no choice. We would have to succeed from Nigeria. Gowon threatened then that if you tried it, you are going to start a war. And not just that, we will break that eastern part of Nigeria into state. That was what that was what started the creation of states in Nigeria. I know they will tell you that it was the unification decree of Agunyi Rossi that canceled the regional system of government. Its unification decree did not cancel the regional system of government. What it did was that it took the power of the regions to decide for themselves whatever they wanted. It took that power and put it in the Supreme Military Council, that the Supreme Military Council will now be deciding for the whole country. But there were still region, Eastern region, Northern region, Western region, Midwestern region in Nigeria before they killed him. After they killed him, Gowon, Golos, decided to create states. So immediately, the Biafrans said that they were leaving after their referendum at the time, said they were leaving. What happened? Golos created the first 12 states by creating at least 3 states from this eastern part of Nigeria. And there was preparation for war. The preparation for war to bring back the Biafrans to Nigeria. After reneging on that gentleman agreement, right, kicked off. And that eventually led to the killings, starvation, to death of over 3.5 million Biafrans. And yeah, the bloodsucker, Muritala, who actually led the charge, Adekunle Faji, the Scorpion, those who led the charge against the Biafrans at the time, right? They were all bloodshot. It was going to be murder after murder. And I'm talking about a war crime where civilians were marched out and slaughtered for So they took away all this history from Nigeria and they started preaching unity, unity, unity. Afterward, Ojukwu absconded, left Nigeria for Ivory Coast. 10 years later, Ojukwu was already begging to return to Nigeria. Guess who he was begging? He was begging the same northerners who were then in power. Shagari was in power. As of 1980, Ojukwu started begging to return. So whatever Peter Obi is doing right now, pandering to the north or to the Fulani north, it didn't start today. Ojukwu started the same, okay? So pissing on the graves of the Biafrans killed, slaughtered. I'm talking about people who say that they mind their business. So before this political disagreement between these guys escalated to the death of millions of people at the time, it was Ojukwu who started it. In fact, Ojukwu had to campaign for Shagari's second term in 1983 before he got overthrown. I'll show you that. So Yakubu lost, who divided Nigeria into states. Okay, till tomorrow, he is still bragging. He has no regrets. He said it. He has no regrets for all that happened. Okay, Nigeria has failed to pay restitution. Nigeria has failed to pay the Easterners for the crime they committed against them. In fact, Nigeria will not even recognize it. Yeah, Nigeria will not even recognize the program. It will not even recognize the killings. It will not even recognize all the inhuman things that happened to the Easterners. There is no closure. You can't talk about it. The only people that talk about it are these, most of them are these Northerners, including the man behind it, who brags about it. He brags about it. It's like it's one of his best achievements. Gowon's achievement was like, yeah, I brought back the reason why. In fact, there was a time he bragged that the reason why some people decided to remove him from power was because he was too slow to crush the Biafrans. They said I was too slow to crush them. So that is why they removed him from power. So the same Golos today is 90, but before now, the Nigeria they forced together is already burning and bleeding. It has become so balkanized, disunited, to the point that the whole genocidist is now the head of the team praying for Nigeria. They call it National Prayer for Nigeria, right? In 1980, after seeing to the death, the blockade, the death of millions of Easterners at the time, 10 years after, Ojukwu was like this, begging to return.
I am seeking my return to Nigeria. I am seeking it through a constitution established by the military regime. I am seeking it through a national party in Nigeria, a party that transcends ethnic considerations. I am, in fact, a partner of other parts of Nigeria. The leader of the party for which I am standing is a northerner. There are many Westerners, there are Easterners in that party. I am, in fact, seeking a return legally and constitutionally into Nigeria, into a new Nigeria that I think I can serve.
But nonetheless, the very fact that Ojukwu comes back must mean a reopening of the old wounds. It must be a symbol of the war that took place.
No, actually, I don't think it is. I don't think in any way it is. First, the war. The war was not Ojukwu's war. I happened on the Igbo situation at the time of the conflict. I did my duty to the best of my ability. And I am glad that Nigerians generally recognize this fact. One man could not have held the entire Nigeria and her allies for 3 years. The Igbo people felt threatened.
Why don't you go back to Nigeria now and fight the election in person?
I would very much like to. I would very much like to. But I have already mentioned the obstacles that are being put in the way of a candidate to be a member of parliament. I'm not seeking political office. I'm not seeking government office. Just to represent my people 10 years after the end of the war. Obstacles are being put. Even people who just signed my papers are being imprisoned. It would be foolhardy for me at this stage to step into Nigeria. But I will go back. Once I become a member of parliament, once I can take my seat in parliament, I will go back. And I'll take my chance with my parliamentary immunity.
Are you seriously saying that all you want to be is an MP? Don't you want to be president?
Once I have decided to go into politics, then I want to serve the nation in the highest capacity and within my ability. If, as a politician, it comes my way that the party of which I am a member designates me as a presidential candidate, I would be extremely proud, and I would certainly contest.
Together. 3 years after that interview, he returned back to Nigeria, and he was on the same campaign trail with Shehu Shagari, the Shagari of that time, right? To campaign for his second term. Listen.
Lagos is the city of the Yorubas, of the Igbos, of the Hausas, of the Orogos, of the Nupes, and of all the tribes of Nigeria. They are all here. And as Nigerians, they are entitled to equal treatment for everything. For any party which will discriminate against Nigerians, that party does not deserve to be called a national party or a Nigerian party. That party is not Nigerian, but it is a tribal party of division. We cannot afford that anymore here in this country.
I actually only bring to you the fraternal greetings of the people across the Niger. What you are trying to do here, we have already begun across the Niger. And we hope in this age of solidarity that with our arms linked across the Niger, we shall march behind Al-Haji Shehu Osmani Shagari into the State House Ribadu Road again on 1st October 1983.
History. I am not saying that it is a good thing to keep on holding on to the grudge or holding on to the hatred, because look at those guys. They are all dead, I believe, now. Ojukwu is gone, Shagari is gone, maybe not all of them, but the likes of Bokwari, they are still here. Obasanjo is still here. Theophilus Danjuma is still here. Babangida is still here. Most of the orchestrator of that program at the time, some of them are still here, but the majority of the key players are gone. But what is really missing is that Nigeria, till tomorrow, they have done so much to remove the effects of that genocidal war from Nigeria history. And that is why anyone can still try it and still do it again to any tribe or ethnic nationality that may be the target. That is why somebody like Bokwari, when he came to power just a few years back now, right? He decided, and he even said it, that the Igbos are just dot in a cycle, that they will be wiped off the entire map because there was no consequences for what they did. All the killings, rather, they were rewarded. Bokwari became head of states. Muritala became head of states. When you look at some of them, Babangida became head of states. Obasanjo became head of states. Danjuma became a chief of defense staff. So these guys became stupendously rich on the blood of the innocent people that they slaughter for nothing. Nigeria won't even recognize them. They won't even recognize the day of the killings. You cannot talk about the genocidal war except among themselves when they brag about it. So which means there is no closure. Okay? In all parts of the world, even in Germany, they are kicked off the Second World War. And across Europe, including part of Asia, including part of Africa, that had the sting of that Second World War and all other wars. They ensure that the history is not to repeat itself by ingraining it into the mind of the people what happened, and those who died, those who shouldn't die but died, and those responsible for those deaths, they were never rewarded with something bigger. They were punished. In some cases, they ensure that their families, their lineage of those who perpetrated such, they never, ever, ever get closer to anything national anymore. Not in Nigeria. Nigeria is a place where, giving a closure simply means Nigeria comes out and say, we are so sorry for what happened. And here is an epitaph for all that died to remind us that horrible, terrible time in the history of that contraption. But rather than Nigeria to have a closure, to apologize and compensate the Igbos. When I say compensate, right, I'm talking about a huge compensations for all the Igbos and the Igbo extraction in Nigeria. That is what you do when you do anything, because when you admit that we have done something wrong. But they don't see it as anything wrong. That is why you see people who are non-Igbos today, Nigerians who are non-Igbos, any small thing, you will be hearing that we'll go kill you again. If I say all this, the same way we did to you in 1967. I'm talking about descendants or people who never even participated in the war. Today is a slow word. If you want to abuse anybody from eastern part of Nigeria, all you have to do is just brag of how your forefathers killed them and nothing happened. We will just kill you again. We will just see all this, we will just kill you again. If I say you never learn your lesson. Why? Because the Cold War continued. After no winner, no vanquish of that Oloribuku Gowon, the Cold War continued. They ensured that eastern part of Nigeria today does not have any seaport, does not have any international airports. Indeed, all of this, to make the matter worse, right? The eastern part of Nigeria, for the first time in a long time, 8 solid years of Boko Haram, they ensured that even though Nigeria borrowed over $80 billion, that is meant to be borrowed by all Nigerians, there is no single federal government project started or completed in eastern part of Nigeria. Not a single one. But they continue to make them believe that if they try to say they want to live again, we'll just kill you again. So there's no closure, there's nothing. So an average Nigerian is told, who is a non-Igbo, is told that it is a good thing that this murderous genocide, this Gowon and co, what they did. And that is why they can use that slow word of, Unyamiri, give me water, give me water. Because of those who were running back to the eastern part of Nigeria or trying to escape the program, begging for water. Because at the national level, it has been made like you shouldn't talk about it. Just pretend that it never happened. Except for the descendants of the Biafran war, who will never forget. Nigeria, at the national level, has no single national holiday, national recognition for what happened in the eastern part of Nigeria. Not a single one. But we are one Nigeria. All of us are one, unity. That Gowon is now preaching. So when Peter Obi made that tweet, it is so cringy and it is so insulting, right? That it makes people like us who are like not Igbos feels like, how could this guy be so insensitive for God's sake? Who are you trying to impress? The head, somebody who could have prevented these killings. This is somebody who could have prevented the killings. It is unnecessary. The genocide was totally unnecessary. But it happened anyway. But Nigeria won't recognize it. Nigeria won't acknowledge it. When they killed MK Abiola, we all know the people who killed Abiola, Abi, and we all know what happened in Yoruba land when Abiola's election was annulled. People died. And guess what? Today, the death of Abiola, a politician, who was a friend with this military boys, these Fulani terrorists from northern Nigeria as well, who benefited immensely from the depletion of Nigeria, looting of Nigeria. He benefited so greatly. His friends organized and denied him access to presidency. They ended up killing him. In Yoruba land, Abiola is recognized nationally in Yoruba land. And even beyond Nigeria, Abiola is given his own flowers, right? That today, they have a national holiday for Abiola, June 12th. And those who died, fighting for Abiola's mandate, they are nationally recognized. MKO Abiola is today referred to as a former president of Nigeria. Yeah, they gave him a GCFR posthumously. GCFR is reserved for the president of Nigeria only. Those guys who milked Abiola's detention, Abiola's death, they are in charge of Nigeria today, by the way. But guess what? They ensured that the name of Abiola, the history of Abiola, the history of June 12th is ingrained in the minds of Nigerians, not just Yorubas. If you go to Abuja, you will see MK Abiola Stadium. Abi, if you read the national holidays in Nigeria, you will see a June 12th holiday. They call it Democracy Day. Country that slaughtered over 3 million people, civilians, they will not talk about it. So if you are an Igbo man, and you read what this guy posted, pandering to Gowon, oh my man, it is so cringy. He is also a man, right, that will never, for some reason, because he didn't want to offend them, I think, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, an Igbo man, has been so unjustly treated. He has been illegally, illegally incarcerated, kidnapped for asking peacefully for a referendum for Biafra. Peter Obi won't say a word about him. He knows that he is being illegally detained there, right? But he won't mention it because he won't want to offend people. What kind of a man do you think he will be? I remember that I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. I said, yeah, it may be different from them when it comes to administrative level. He's not a thief, give that to him. But he's a spineless politician. He is one of those that the owners of Nigeria managed to instill a generational fear in him. Peter Obi's father was one of the victims of the Biafran war. He lost everything, according to him. His father was a businessman. When the war or the genocide started, his father lost everything, including his life. And he, young Peter at the time, suffered greatly because of his father's demise. So he grew up to possibly deny Biafra, and he will continue to deny it, even if he is as rich as Bill Gates or as Elon Musk. He will always fear what Nigeria can do to him if he doesn't toe the line. I told people, I said, see, some of you who should know better is that Peter Obi is for one Nigeria. I don't have any issue with that because he's not the only person who is like that, okay? And I said, if you think, for those who said that when Peter Obi become your president, he's going to break up Nigeria. The Igbos are going to have Biafra. I was like, you are so stupid to even think that. This is somebody that will do anything and everything to prove to the owners of Nigeria that he is a Nigerian, he is not Igbo. Yeah, Obi will prove to Nigerians, I mean, I'm talking about the one Nigerianist, that he is he said it many times. He has said that many times, that he's pro-Nigeria, not pro-Igbo or pro-this or that. Despite the fact that he said that many times, they still won't trust him. Do you get that? They won't trust him. And for him to prove to them that he's pro-Nigeria, he would actually possibly further keep Nnamdi Kanu illegally in prison. Yeah, he would do it. Because they wouldn't want them to say, he's the one that released Nnamdi Kanu, or he's the one that, you know what I mean? It would intensify. I said, Nigerian army, they will kill more Igbos than anybody else in the history of Nigeria that shouts Biafra, Biafra, if Obi become your president. Because you need to prove to them, right, that he is not, you know, he's not pro-Igbo. I am a Yoruba man, right? Even though the likes of Tifnubu claim to be Yoruba, but we all know that they are not pro-Yoruba. They are pro themselves. They will just use Yoruba as a meal ticket. But this Tifnubu and his gang, they will never shy away from paying their Yoruba card. Yeah, they won't. When Obi would rather, you know, sort of shiver away because he didn't want to be, he's always been suspected. And I've said this many times as well. There are many, many Igbos like him. The reason why they will never fund or support Biafra is because if they dare, they believe the owners of Nigeria will come for them. And they are so comfortable. They are so comfortable enjoying this shithole with them. Their businesses are moving. So if Igbo land doesn't have seaport, there's no point in fighting for it. Because if they try to fight for it, the owners of Nigeria will say, the Igbos want to succeed. Don't let them have seaport. If they try to fight for regional system of government, they will say the owners of Nigeria will fight against it and they may come for them. So therefore, they would rather deny their involvement. In fact, they will work more to make sure that the Biafra never happens. And we are seeing it, are we not? I think I've told many of you before who are Biafrans, so gullible enough to be pointing your fingers at others. Blaming the Yorubas, blaming the Hausas, blaming the Fulanis, the Northerners, the Westerners, as the people who don't want the Igbos to go. You are so gullible and so stupid as well. The real people who are against Biafra, they are no other people than your elite, your political class. Because since that genocidal war, which Nigeria continue a cold war against you and your region, those who are billionaires from eastern part of Nigeria, those who have been, bigger politicians from eastern part of Nigeria, they love the position given to them by Nigeria, right? Play the second fiddle. Every time, play the second fiddle. Don't let anybody see you as ambitious so that they won't say you are going to be pushing Biafra. And they do not want to associate with Biafra because they are comfortable with Nigeria. Their people can continue to be profiled, ostracized, targeted by Nigeria, okay? They would rather keep their mouth shut because they don't want to be suspected. They don't want to lose whatever they are getting from Nigeria. The day you go after the enemies of Biafra, which are Igbos, Igbo politicians, Igbo billionaires, Igbo elites, the day you go after them is likely going to be the beginning of the emergence of Biafra. Similarly to us in Yoruba land as well. But the difference is that, why is Nigeria not, okay, if you want to keep the Igbos in Nigeria, as you have done for the last 50 years, what is wrong in recognizing what Nigeria did for that 3 years genocidal war? Recognize it, apologize, pay restitution to them. And then people can have closure. And say, okay, you know what? We can move on now. The likes of Peter Obi and co are telling you to let us forget and move on. They are putting the blame on you that it is so wrong for you to hate on Nigeria. Let us move on. But you are still being targeted. Development won't come to your zone nationally, except for the few ones who are ready to play balls, use you as their own meal ticket on the desk or table of Nigeria. That's exactly what the likes of Peter Obi, that's what they represent. Pandering to the rest of Nigeria so that they can trust me. You need to trust me. I am an Igbo man. We have moved on from the war. The war is over. We shouldn't be hating ourselves. But you are not hating them enough. They are hating on you. For 64 years, The Yorubas, the Hausas, the Fulanis, the Kanuris, the Ojukwu, whatever. What is the tribe of Gowon? These are the people who have ruled Nigeria and ruined Nigeria. But guess who they are asking to build bridges? The Igbos. The Igbos need to build bridges. The Igbos need to build clinical. They are even asking the Igbos to apologize to Nigeria. What an audacity. What an effrontery. It is what it is. Oh. So when I saw that reaction, I was like, oh, I am so surprised that people are surprised that you could be eulogizing a murderer. Eulogizing, they are killing the Easterners as we speak. They no bump it or be well to actually make a post and take a position on it and say, you cannot militarize my region. You can't be treating my people like this. This is so wrong. The likes of Tifnumbu and Co., they will not look away if they kill 3 billion Yorubas. If they kill 3.5 million Yorubas in Nigeria. Nah. They didn't even kill us. They didn't even kill up to 10,000 of us. When they milked it politically, they milked it to the end. Today, they consider themselves as power brokers in Nigeria. Yeah. After Fulani, Hausas, after Yorubas will be there and all of that, even though none of these tribes is benefiting from it too. But I'm talking about the political class.
So my people, that is it. I hope you guys have everything Mayogo said in this particular video. One thing I like about Mayogo, he called a spade every time. No matter who is involved, he said it as it is. My people, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned one thing or the other from this particular video. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comment section, share the video to your friends and family, and also give me a thumbs up so that YouTube will recommend this video to other people to watch and learn as well. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'm going to see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.
Welcome to